This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, everyone, and a very warm welcome to and Beyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. We're not far from the lodge, actually at the lodge. I can see the lodge just behind me. We've managed to find some cheetah, the two cheetah that have been spending a lot of time around the lodge. And this morning we're planning on spending some time with them to start off. And yeah, just a very warm welcome to all of you. It's such a pleasure to have you. And yeah, welcome aboard to your very own safari live from the African bush. We just have these two young cheetah, and it seems as though they're just soaking up the sun. I'm sure you can barely make out the top of their heads, but the thing that you'll probably notice in the long grass is those little ears flicking every so often. My name is Grant, and behind the camera we have Craig. And yeah, like I was saying, just behind Craig at the moment is Mountain Lodge, and I can actually see the guests' deck, or the viewing deck from the lodge. And yeah, right behind me, I've got two cheetah. And it's just a perfect morning this morning. There's not a breath of wind. Thank you. It certainly is, James. I mean, you can imagine driving out of the lodge at literally about 15 seconds from starting the vehicle to getting to these cheetah. And it's just a perfect way to start your morning. And just sitting here enjoying our surroundings and enjoying actually what these cheetah are currently enjoying. So comparing to the previous days that have been a little bit cooler with the rain and stuff that we've had. Last night was a little bit cooler, and so I'm sure for these cheetah, being out and exposed to the elements, they would have definitely felt the cold last night, and so are just enjoying the sun this morning. Looking around, there's like a little bit of dew on the tops of the leaves. There might have even been a little bit of rain this morning, or at some stage last night. Haven't seen the cheetah grooming each other yet. They might have already done so. They would get most of the moisture off of themselves and one another as soon as they felt like it was not going to rain anymore, if they were wet due to rain. We're just going to be a little bit patient here, because every now and then these cheetah have been sitting up, but it seems like at the moment they are just snoozing a little bit. At this time of the day, or of the morning at least, they will be quite sure that some of those bigger nocturnal animals will be starting to settle down for the day. So I'm going to just sit with these cheetah, and we're hoping that they'll sit up and give us a little bit more of a look at them. But let's take a look at the weather in the meantime.
Good morning and welcome to a very cool and beautiful and Beyond Ngala this morning, where we have a lot of oxpeckers making noise and a buffalo in the riverbed. How amazing is that sunrise behind the buffalo? I'm Yapi. Behind the camera we've got Gert, and we set out this morning to try and look for any cats, but we decided on leopard. And what happened is we actually came across this sets of tracks of what seems to be one, maybe two leopards, and they're going up and down from this area where this buffalo is laying down. You know, what's interesting is that it looks like there's some relatively fresh tracks, and I think the animal came and drank here and went back to somewhere where she possibly had a carcass of something, or where she was feeding. So along our way we came across this buffalo, and he is relaxing and chewing the cud in the Timbavati riverbed. Got a feeling today's going to be hot and quite humid, and he's probably aware of that, so he's using this cool river sand to enjoy this last little bit of shade before the sun's up high and it starts baking everything. He's probably also been feeding quite a bit, like for the past 2 hours. I've literally crammed in whatever grass it could find, which there are a lot of good food sources along the banks of the Timbavati at the moment. And after that, moves down, finds a spot to settle. And then comes and chews the cud to help him digest. In a way also saving some time, energy, and then also getting groomed. You can see the bird on top of his head. The red-billed oxpecker. Jerome, why is his mouth foaming up? It's because I think some of probably hasn't had a drink in the last few minutes. But also he has, by continually chewing and re-chewing the cud, it creates a lot of saliva. And also the grass is quite tough. Like the grasses that the buffalo like this would eat is relatively tough. It's very difficult to digest. And it's been regurgitated from the stomach. So whatever moisture is there It's not free-flowing like a drink of fresh water. Well, that's amazing though. You can see if you look carefully, you'll notice the bottom jaw is actually moving in a little bit of a rotation from the one side, like in a circular movement. And that's because that ball of cud or regurgitated material was pushed to the cheeks, and then obviously gets masticated by the molars and moved from one side to the other. It's almost as if the process is mechanical and instinctual. It looks like he's lifted up his head in that direction, and I can feel a slight breeze coming from there. So he's probably picked up on the scent of something coming from that side of the river. Now, in this particular area, that can be anything from elephants to other buffaloes. What's interesting though is so the bird, like right in the middle of the boss, the helmeted part at the top of the head, it looks like it's a red-billed oxpecker, but it looks like it's a young one. And from what I could see before, it jumped down to the neck, and it's probably down behind the ear trying to get to the ticks that the buffalo struggle to get off. I've often noticed how they use the buffaloes in the morning just to sit and wait for the sun to come out to warm them up. What an unbelievable scene. See that wall of green, the grass and the big trees in the back of the bank of the river. And this lone buffalo just having an open spot here. Now one would think with all these reeds and the thick brush around, anything that might be like a predator coming nearby will probably have a chance to sneak up on him. And I think he's quite clever. So even though he's only checking or looking in one direction, I think he's laying in a very strategic position there. It means he can actually pick up on the scent of anything coming from behind him. You can see he's also not even bothered by the birds making the noise. And then he has a good lookout on this side. I'm sure as soon as that sun comes out and it warms it up properly, this buffalo will probably get up and move out of this area, maybe up onto the bank maybe join up. I saw tracks of a few others around, so I'm sure they're not too far from where he is. In fact, some of them might actually make their way down into the riverbed a little bit later on and try and capitalize on some of that shade closer to the banks. And I think a buffalo like this would more than likely have moved with the rest of the group. It's kind of more like a safety in numbers thing, and also the fact that it's a little bit of a social longing. It's a social animal. So they gather along the areas. This particular area's got everything a buffalo bull would need. It's got reed beds for cover during the heat of the day, puddles with mud, water to drink everywhere, good grasses that grow in the shade, and high in protein nearby. So yeah, I think he probably fell behind a little bit and on his leisurely stroll decided to settle here while the rest went on. And that's why we're only seeing this one.
Yeah, these two little rascals quite far from the den and on Rebecca's Road. Cool to watch them be. Charlene Happy on camera with me this morning on Jimmy Game Reserve, and like I said, these guys are quite far from where I expected them to be, but apparently there is a female that's walked through too. We just didn't know that two cubs were following her, so it must have been Ribbon. I wonder where they're going to go. And they're just investigating the areas that's been filled up. So all of this area on Rebecca's Road kind of became creviced after the rains. And all the erosion, so it's been filled in. And they're just investigating all of that. It's so cool to watch them as they smell and get to know the different parts of the world. Not that they really need to get to know bricks, but nonetheless, it's very exciting if you're a little hyena. It's very muddy there too. So there are actually some alarm calls that were heard around this area, well, a little behind me. So we found the impala, but we didn't find any tracks or anything like that. So we're now just taking a drive around the area to see if we may be able to find whatever caused the alarm calls. Now, hyenas, impalas, will alarm for hyenas as well. But it's quite brief. So this seemed to be a serious bout of alarm calling. So we're hoping that there is a leopard around. These two have now run off into the bush. You can see it's still quite wet. Let's see. Oh, They've now run into the distance. Well, I think it was really cool to see them out in the open and not just at the den, but now we're going to move on. They'll probably pop out a little further ahead.
Please join me this Saturday evening for a town hall meeting. It'll be live, and it's an opportunity for me to tell you about what Wild Earth is, where we're coming from, and where we're going to. And it's an opportunity for you to ask some questions, give us some feedback, and even maybe get more involved in Wild Earth going forward. 7:30 this Saturday evening, wildearth.tv. It's open to all. You've just got to be registered on our website, and we'd love to see you there.
For all of you Wild Earth explorers who bought plaques, today is the day that you will make your very first safari on our vehicle. Because we are quite remote here in the bush, they have taken some time to arrive, but I am happy to say they are here and they look great. Marcel has spent the day attaching them. Let's take a look.
Before we mount these nameplates, we just give a light dusting of green paint. This is to better match them to the color of the vehicles and also to decrease the reflectivity of the metal and thereby staying sensitive towards the animals.
Bumble crew, hopefully Dan Black, Liesel Apgar and Alicia George. Well, it's time for me to get ready to take you all on a safari. Let's go.
I'm Nikki here at Ambion Ngala in South Africa. I love getting questions from viewers about all the small things within the environment and how it all is integrated with one another. If you want to ask me any questions, please simply register with the Wild Earth website, head across to the Live Safari page and then post your questions there. I'm looking forward to chatting to you on my next Wild Earth drive.
Oh, it's going to be in trouble now. Oh, this is unbelievable stuff. Here comes a hippo in too. Go, Impala. There's a hippo coming in. I can't believe what we're seeing here. This is what we normally see in East Africa. It's all over. Hippo leaping at the crocodile now. Everything's gone underwater.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
So we are still heading north on Rebecca's, and the two cubs, the hyena cubs, have darted off to the east, actually towards Philemon's dip, and they kind of are heading a little bit north too, so it almost looks as if they're going to end up on quarantine. And that's interesting because why are they going to quarantine? But it's okay, because Rebecca's, I'll also be able to get to quarantine with a bit of speed, and we'll see what's happening up there. Quarantine is a great arena for many, many interactions, intra and interspecies interactions, and watching different species interact is one of my favorite things. The way that elephants react to seeing a leopard, or how they don't react sometimes. I love watching that. It's also the type of thing that you don't get to read about much in textbooks. There have been lots and lots of tortoises around too. Another interaction that is interesting to watch that we've seen. Tortoises and the hyena cub. I mean, it's generally beneficial to only one species, the tortoise. Unfortunately, let's just get through here. The tortoise on its back and the hyena is just kind of having some fun, and there have been lots and lots of tortoises around. So maybe we'll see a bit of that, but I'm hoping for a larger species interaction. I'm just going to speed up because I want to get there. Because also in the time from the time we heard the alarm calls to the time we were investigating and driving around and looking for tracks and stuff, at least 20 minutes has passed. So that should give, if there was a leopard, give it sufficient time to move in this direction, if it was moving in this direction. So let's go up and see. Hi Kyle, you'd like to know if there are lots of different tortoise species on Djuma. There's just two. There's the Speke's hinged tortoise and the leopard tortoise. Those are the only two that we get on Djuma. But we do get two terrapins as well. Different tortoise, closely related. And that would be the serrated hinged terrapin and the marsh terrapin. I'm quite thankful that the soil or the sand has dried sufficiently in enough areas for us to be able to actually see tracks. But I have a feeling about quarantine, so I'm going to kind of hightail it in that direction. Last night we had quite a bit of rain. I mean, not a terrible amount, but a good amount. Hello, keeping it simple. You'd like to know if the hyenas are still at one den or are they using two dens, or what is the story there? It actually appears that they may be using three dens, but I know that I've experienced this before. When some of the youngsters are old enough, like Ribbon's boys in our year this month, they start just moving a little bit more within the same area. And so there's another den that we didn't actually even talk about as a den, because they used it for like 1 or 2 days and then they went back to their normal den. And even when they were using that one, they were still using the normal one. I'm talking about Swazi's cohort of cubs, Swazi and Ndebele Sotho, those cubs. So it's this time where some of the cubs are older, so there's a lot of movement. So I wouldn't say that, oh, they've moved den, or they're now using two dens instead of one den. I say there's still one primary den that they're using, the one we've been to most recently, and they're peripherally using the other ones. In fact, I saw an interesting scenario where June's little cub kept walking back down to the old den and was getting very upset when she was getting moved. And Swazi was there and June was there with this little cub. And on the ground, didn't want to move, didn't want to get up. And and Swazi's trying to pull her along, and June's trying to grab her by the neck, pull her, and she's squealing. It almost looked like she was throwing a tantrum because she was so used to the other den, which I thought was very, very cute. And, you know, Swazi's just all up in there, like, I'm here to help, I'm your big brother. So there's a lot of movement within that area, but there's still one den that is of primary use. Okay, we've made it up to quarantine. We're gonna just listen for a little bit for some alarm calls. Rosemary, you'd like to know where a leopard would leave its cubs when it goes hunting? In any area that is kind of densely packed, so that the scent of the leopard cub and the sight of the leopard cub will be well hidden. So that could be in riverbeds, in drainages. Drainages are a great one. Almost always in drainages. Especially because, with roots, the roots of trees and things like that, there can be nice little hiding spots in the banks of many of the drainages, and you'll find that that's one of the primary spots. They won't leave it out in the open because you're just asking for two things. One, for your cub to become very curious and sniff around and then get itself into trouble. And two, if another predator comes along, it'll be very easy to spot that cub. All right, we're just going to turn on to the central bits of quarantine now, and we're going to have a bit of a listen if I can hear any alarm calls, because I know that there's a herd of impala just a little east of here. Get a little bit more central. Excuse me, it's always a good sign for predators when there aren't many antelope on quarantine. We've discussed this numerous times. Okay. Here is a good spot to listen. I'm just going to pull my earpiece out for a few seconds. Except, they just said something to me. Okay. Okay, just want to pull my earpiece out to have a listen. Well, I'm going to have a listen here, and I'm going to send you over to Ingala. I'll let you know if I find anything.
Talking about finding a leopard, we have been following the tracks of this leopard and came across what you could think of as an aid out here. When it comes to finding leopard, I don't think there's any creature better equipped than this hyena. There's a hole dug by elephants that it drank from, but I'm sure it was following the trail of the leopard. Maybe even the leopard had a drink there. Just look at the tattered ears on this hyena. You can see a little bit of blood on the right-hand side. But the way it's looking around, the way it's moving around, it's not really moving off in a definitive direction. I'm sure it knows something we don't. I think it's also a little bit curious as to what we were up to. You can see the nose is down on the ground. Have a look. Turning around. And I think it's definitely got... Oh, there's another elephant drinking hole dug there. What I've seen before is, it looks like that hyena's just had a drink there, but what I've seen before is when leopard move through an area like this, they often use the smaller puddles, something that's not part of a watering hole or something like that, just the elephant digging to drink from, and stop the one to the next, and that's why the hyena often moves from the one to the next. You can see the nose is up there, and it looks like there's definitely something worth its while to made it make all the way here to check it out. A little bit of a scratch. That's amazing. It's using the back leg to scratch the front leg. And you can see the tail going vigorously. I'm sure that's because it's been walking through this grass in the dry riverbed. There's lots of ticks and parasites around at the moment, but I think it's also because of the dew on the grass. Now, it's moving around in a zigzag pattern, and I think it's still following the tracks of this leopard, and the tracks are heading all along the riverbed. It's going up and down, and it looks like it's two, a mother and a younger one maybe. So I'm actually quite excited to see if we might have luck this morning and find this leopard. But I'm going to take a slow drive down the riverbed and continue to follow them, see where they go, and then we'll check out the big trees nearby very, very carefully, because there's a good chance that if tracks go up and down like that, it's either a mother with a den site leaving a cub, but in this case, this youngster looks like it's quite large already, maybe about the age to actually break off on its own. So I think in this case, it's more than likely that there's been a meal that they've kept somewhere nearby and that they're drinking, and the movements they made was only to go have a drink. But the leopard can be very tricky to track. If luckily for us, the soil's quite soft. Now I can see the hyena looks like it's settled, or it's stopped at least, and it looks like it's moving around there because it's trying to stick on the leopard's trail. What an amazing creature. You can't train any other animal better to find a leopard than that hyena. Just want to have a look. There's a big tree up on the bank here. I think what I might do is move a little bit forward, try and see if we can get a better gap. But you can see the hyena is contemplating moving up the bank to check if the trail's leading up there. I don't see any more tracks. And this is also the section of the river where there is the biggest trees up on the bank. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to watch this hyena quite carefully. It's got a piece of grass between its eyes. Okay, it looks like it's going up the bank, and hopefully it's going to point us in the right direction. I think while we try and see what's happening here, we'll head over to Taylor at Pridelands.
Well, what a treat do we have for you today, because standing in the distance behind a false marula is the BFG, the big friendly giant of Pridelands. That, everybody, is Ezelwini. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and I'm getting caught in a wild sesame plant right now. And on camera with me today is Niels. And like I said, we are here at Pridelands Conservancy, which is part of Baluli Game Reserve and the Greater Kruger Park. Now, we are literally standing in the eco-training camp right now because this is where Ezulwini has been hanging out for the last few days. And if you don't know who Ezulwini is, he is a great tusker. There's an elephant with enormous tusks that roams around in this area. And we've been very fortunate enough to see him quite a few times. We've got him this morning. He was actually eating right outside my tent for a very long time last night. I could just hear him munching away. He has terrorized all the students. Not that he does anything ugly, but just his sheer size. And he's got a good swagger in his step at the moment as he is in must. So what must means is essentially for a few months every single year, depending on a number of external factors. But seeing as we've had lots of rain and Ezulwini is a very healthy elephant, he comes into a point of his life where he starts producing a lot of testosterone. And this essentially drives him to move out and search for females that are in estrus. So that's why he comes around here, and there's lots and lots of breeding herds, so it's really a hot spot for him. You know, it's not like he's just tailing one breeding herd for ages trying to find him, but in fact, you know, he might have 5 or 6 different herds that he can sort of test the females to see if any of them are receptive. Now, you're probably thinking, Taylor, you are very brave to be on foot with an elephant bull in must, because notoriously they are known to be slightly less tolerant. However, we're very lucky with this particular elephant. He is the most relaxed elephant I've ever come across in my entire life. He is very, very chilled. He has got a lovely temperament. Unfortunately, sometimes his tusks get in the way. You can't really see them now because the grass is really tall. So hopefully he will show himself to us and we can really have a good look at his tusks. But we're not going to get too close to him. We've got lots of vegetation and fallen trees between us and him. I bet he can hear me talking, but I don't think he can smell us and he can't see us right now. So that's going to be what we do today. Is I think we're going to try and follow Ezulwini around and see what he gets up to. And I think before long, the herds will gather around at Lorvu Dam, and then we should really witness some interesting interactions. Now, I didn't quite hear where I'm sending you off to, but I know it's going to be in the bushveld somewhere, and it'll be wonderful, I'm sure.
So our cheetah have gone back to their original resting position. There's not too much that's changed. They are perhaps still trying to defrost from last night. I'm sure there really isn't much to see. There you go, you just see the little heads moving and the ears flicking. And they're lying in a mixture of sort of herbs and forbs that are growing on the ground there. It's not really grass, this area that we are in at the moment. And the head popped up. Every now and then there's a sound that gives the cheetah a little fright, and they want to just check that there's nothing coming closer to them. But for now it seems as though these cheetah are not going to be moving, not going to be doing too much other than resting. And so I'm going to go see what else is out there this morning, and in the meantime send you across to Djuma.
I was actually mistaken. It was Hart's 2 that were Hart's 2 cubs that were on Rebecca's, and it was Hart who is now taken us all the way up to quarantine and Western quarantine. So it's her and her 2 cubs. She sent the 2 cubs back, And now she's just continuing. You have to keep quite a distance. I'm going to stop. Oh, she's running now. You have to keep quite a distance when you're following hyenas because they don't like to be followed. So let's just stop here and see if we can get a view of her. But like the other guides were saying, hyenas can be really valuable when you're looking for a leopard. And the fact that she's sent her 2 cubs back means that she's on some type of what I'd like to think is a risky mission, like encounters with another predator. So I'm going to follow her at a fairly large distance, see where she goes. She's not going to find water. She could go to Treehouse Dam for that. She's not moving her cubs, otherwise the cubs would be with her. She is doing something else. She's going far more west than I expected. Past Zoe's, past power lines. Huh. Now she's just turned into the block between Aubrey's Road and Gallagher Shortcut. I'll just watch from here for a little bit. Just checking exactly where she turned in. Sir 50, you say hyenas are such curious animals. They really are. Not only are they, as in, you know, curious about other things, but they themselves are such curious animals. So she's darted in here. You can see her tracks go straight in here. The closest road to us is Gallagher Shortcut. Just by maybe 50 meters because she's almost smack bang in the middle of Aubrey's and Gallagher Shortcut. Guess we're gonna have to do both. Go up Gallagher Shortcut and down Aubrey's. Let's do it. Always love the mornings. So much promise. You don't know what you're gonna find or who you're gonna follow. Oh, and there's a bit of sun coming out. That is lovely. Okay, so we're gonna head up. And I'm going to send you over to Kyle and Swallow to say good morning.
Very good morning to everybody and welcome to Tswana. Lovely black-backed jackal we've got here. We locate this individual just over the dune crest via that beautiful and very distinctive vocalization. It's just sat down. There is another one coming from the right-hand side, and we thought initially it might have been following a predator. Do you see the other one, BK? There's the other individual there further back. Jackals accompany predators, so if they pick up on a predator, they'll follow a predator from a safe distance, and in the hopes of them catching something, and then there's a free meal for these animals. Sure, ones are running. What's going on here? So it looks like there's 3 of them. So these might be this season's pups. But that one that did move off did look like it had a very full belly. Let us try and move the vehicle back. Good morning, my name is Carl. Behind camera is DK. Thank you for joining us. Let's move the vehicle back there. I can see the one busy moving. And let's see what's really going on here. Now, obviously, it's nice always to do a little follow-up because it could potentially lead into something being quite rewarding. And jackal are by far one of my favourite animals to watch because of their activity, their vocalizations, their structure. There's 2 of them there, alright. And then as well as their long-lasting bonds with partners, very, very strong devotion to the partner, and then the pups actually helping out later on, rearing new individuals. They fit into a wide range of habitats, so a very adaptable animal and very cunning. The ecological range, let's say, is very broad, able to inhabit the west coast of South Africa, very dry, barren regions, and then the highlands of South Africa down to the coastal forests. They are just well adapted in so many habitats. How they do look like young individuals.
On the 27th of April, Wild Earth will be turning 14 years old, and we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for all of you. And to celebrate, we will be finishing the beautiful book that we started last year that looks at the history so far. But we do need you to be part of it. Please submit your most memorable sighting, or what Wild Earth means to you, or even just your name and a comment to be included inside the book. Head over to the website to add your name and reserve your copy. We are offering a 20% discount on all books bought before the end of March. And a big thank you to all of you who have contributed to the book so far.
With a slew of potential dangers lurking, it's essential to be aware of your surroundings whilst walking in the wilderness.
20 yards away from one of the most endangered species. This is a big bull.
What a moment, what a close encounter with an Ellie bull. He's just over here now. He's moved completely away.
Being on a bushwalk and seeing a leopard, I mean, it's ridiculous to be this close to a leopard on foot and for him not to run is absolutely insane. How crazy was that?
Through the gap there is just the back of the head of a male lion. He is absolutely unaware that we are here right now. I tell you, seeing lions on foot, it definitely brings out the caveman in you, this little scared human being.
My name is Ross and I'm a field guide at and Beyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on Wild Earth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
Good morning everybody. Before we look at me, let's quickly send you over to Wild Dog over here.
caught up with some wild dogs. We've already had tracked down 2 sets of lions, everybody, but sadly weren't able to bring them to you. But we've got some wild dogs that have just come onto Djuma. And as that one disappears behind the bush, it's a good time to say good morning. Hello, everybody. My name is Steve, joined by Mpho on camera, and we are very excited to have you with us. Wild dogs, wild dogs, wild dogs. Now, they are moving through very slowly. The young male, or should I say the male with the collar, his back left leg, looks very bad. Looks very, very bad. I don't know what has happened to it. But the dogs are moving quite slowly for a change. They might be trying to keep him with them. Here we go. Here's one running. Be prepared for some action. Here's one running. You got him. I don't know how many there are. I've counted 4. Beautiful painted dog, painted wolf. They're moving all over the place. Matthew, I'm actually not sure at the moment. I couldn't tell you. If any of our astute viewers out there, we still got him. Any of our astute viewers out there can tell me. There's a male with a collar, and his left back leg is badly damaged. I don't know if it looks extremely fresh, but it could be. It looked like it was still seeping, but it almost looked like it was an older wound. Going to come through here, through the little gap. Let's try and make a space here. There we go. There's one at the back there, and then one coming through. So we'll try and get you a couple of them on camera so you can actually see the colors and the spots and the patterning. There's one coming through on the right here as well, Mpho. Yeah. So I don't know what they're looking for. Their noses are ferreting and their ears are alert. They might be looking for a steenbok. They might have seen one dash away from them and they're trying to figure out where it's gotten to. So I must warn you, everybody, if something does happen, and they kill something, it can be quite hard to watch. So if it does happen, I'm not saying it's going to, just be warned. So James Richard has confirmed, and with the shortest and most obscured visual, he is able to tell us it is indeed the Phungwe pack. So thank you, James. Now, last time I saw the Phungwe pack, there was quite a lot of them. And this does not seem to be, I haven't counted more than 4 yet, but then they do all seem to be fanning out. They're not calling, which is something they do when they have lost family members. Did you see where he went there, Mpho? Okay, it's coming back. It's going to go back and find the rest. Probably was an attempted hunt. As you try to get him running off into the bushes. Well, he tries to find the rest of the family. We're going to have to turn around. That's the thing with wild dogs, everybody. They don't have a particular direction. They go up and down, up and down.
straight up to join that route just north of east of Galagos Park and around that one.
Nathan, I think they do. They hunt when they're hungry, so if they feed on something much bigger than their normal allowance, then they don't need to hunt every day. But they can hunt more than once a day as well. Depends on the number of mouths to feed. Okay, so gone, just like that. So the other vehicle seems to think that they've gone south. Let's not stall. Well, it's very likely that that is what they've done. Not so nice to see them though. So nice to see some wild dogs this morning. You never know what you're going to find, everybody. We had 3 members of the Talamati Pride close to Jacana Camp, and then the rest of the Talamati Pride we got at Sydney's Dam just before. Okay, well, we're going to maybe take this next left down. Oh, it's hard. It's a guessing game. It's a guessing game with these dogs. You never know what you might find, as Trishala rightfully knows.
And you don't. It's quite crazy the way they move around so quickly. And if you are wondering, Hart was going up to join them. So remember we said we'd take Gallagher shortcut up to see what she's following. She was sniffing out the dogs. So that was very cool. And Steve was already there. I wonder if you saw her. I hope that you did. So now we've decided we're going to go to the south. I want to check out Twin Dams. Yeah, Twin Dams, Treehouse Dam, see how that goes. I think I was told that you did get to see Hart. So very cool. It's actually amazing that she could sniff them out or hear them from such a distance. It was from the Den area, which is where we first saw her and the cubs moving north. It's probably about 3 or 4 kilometers up to Gallagher Shortcut Firebreak. So that's very, very impressive. Oh, this is cute. Ah, okay, you didn't see the hyena, you just saw the Pungwe pack. Okay, cool. Well, I hope that you get to see the hyena too. This looks like quite a young impala. Young male, there's 2 of them there behind the mound. And why I thought it was interesting was it's these young males that often get out-competed during the rut, but they'll still try and get an area. I'm just going to move back a little bit so we can get all forward, so we can get a better view. There we go. You can see that the distance between the horns is still quite narrow, and it's not quite that dominant in prime impala ram's shape just yet. But they're forming bachelor herds. They're also feeling the effects of the testosterone increasing in their bodies. And he'll also start to want to hold territories. In fact, he would be holding territories. Or trying to. There's another male with him. But they'll get outcompeted by the larger rams that are in their prime. It's always cool to see them, though. Kind of like the young buck on the block. Just gotten my full set of horns. I'm gonna see whether the ladies will be attracted to me or not. There's actually, the other male seems to be slightly larger, but they're bigger than him, just behind there. Can't wait for it to get into full swing. Really can't. It's such a spectacle is probably the best word. They're eating at the base of a boerbean. Oh, you all are quite happy that the animals are in great condition. They really are. All the animals we've been seeing are in really nice condition. I mean, yesterday Darkmane was not in the best condition, still limping. But otherwise, everyone is in really good condition. And that's always wonderful to see. I'm just found a little bug. I'm just looking in my bug book. But my bug book's also gotten very wet, and that's very sad, because it's my favorite book. I've seen a multitude of rhinoceros beetles around, which has also been quite cool, but very tiny ones. Can you hear how painful it is to go through pages in this book? Ugh, no. Okay, no, I think I can't do this to the book. I'll show you the bug, but I'm not sure what it is. Oh. Just a bit of running. Here it is. Cute little beetle. Some sort of jewel beetle, I think. Actually, probably not. I'm not sure. I don't want to wreck my book. So I'll have to do it at home when I can more carefully take apart the pages. There we go. How pretty is that? Cleaning itself. It's actually tucking its back wings in properly. Very nice. I love the colors that you can see, especially the variation in insects. Such beautiful colors. All this kind of color, especially this shiny green, this iridescent green, is a result of structural coloration, much like we've spoken about with starlings. So there's little pigment, but lots of microstructures that are scattering the light in different ways to produce that color. And that's why these kind of animals are quite prized. Prized in museum collections because they don't fade, because they're not as a result of pigment. There's a friend coming to it. It's a bark spider. Oh my goodness. Look at that. An insect and a spider in one shot. Awesome. Well, I'm going to send you over now to Taylor in Pridelands.
So we haven't quite got a bug for you, but maybe later today there'll be some interesting insects. But we've still got Hazelweenies behind us, but I just thought we'd quickly stop and have a look at this little pile of poop. Or dung, probably the more appropriate word. But you can see it's very, very small, even in comparison to the size of my hand. So this is a little elephant that has done this. And it just goes to show how many elephants actually come through here. Probably from this morning. It looks very, very fresh. But I'm standing on one of the very many pathways that sort of link up with one another. Put that down. And eventually go all the way around to the Eco Training Camp Dam in Lovedam. Come with me. We've just moved into a slightly better position where we can see Hazelweenie, but it is difficult because he is tucked away quite nicely. But what you can't see behind me is a massive termite mound that, if we need to, we can go and stand right up on top. It's huge, one of the biggest ones I've seen. But we've also got, again, lots of fallen trees around us. And he isn't bothered by us. He spends a lot of time in the camp. He knows people. He sees us, and I think he really doesn't care about us too much. As long as you get out of his way, he does his thing. I think when you get to the size that Hazelweenie is at, there's very few things that will eventually bother you. But the other day, I don't know if I told you, he came right through camp, and I thought he was going to knock breakfast off of the table. Everybody just sort of scattered and made way for him as he came on through. And it was an amazing experience because you got to see how huge he was. And he is a gentle giant, and off he went. But the problem is that because he is in must, he's dribbling so much urine. And even as we stand here, we're downwind of him, all I can smell is this very musty drain water, disgusting smell. I don't like the smell of must. I know there are some people out there that seem to enjoy it. Not a fan of how wild dogs smell either. Steve can probably tell you a little bit more about that, seeing as though he has them. And anyone that sees a blue wildebeest, if you're downwind of them too, not my favorite smell either. But must, probably the worst of the worst smells. And it stays there for so long. So that's one of the things I'll hopefully be able to show you at some point, is how much urine he's actually dribbling, which you can just find on the pathways that he has walked. But we had quite a bit of rain last night, so it's made it difficult for us to show you. But we'll go looking for that in a little bit. But off we go back across to Phinda, to Grant.
We managed to find or spot excuse me, I just inhaled a fly. I think I'm okay. I was just saying to Craig it would be so cool to try and find a snake this morning. We've had a little bit of rainy and cold weather, and now the sun is out. And so I'm hoping that there might be a snake somewhere up on a tree that we might be able to spot, and then manage to spot this grasshopper. And you'll see it's got really amazing camouflage. I mean, it looks just like a bunch of dead leaves, and I think the only reason I was able to spot it was because it was in amongst the greener leaves of that spike thorn. And if you have a look at the body of this grasshopper, of course, it's really camouflaged and looks very much like a leaf. But you'll see it's like quite a rough body. And then if you look under that, so you'll see there's one leg facing sort of forward below the head. And then there's the second leg is facing like diagonally back, almost towards us and holding onto the leaf. And then the third leg, oh, listen to that. Can you hear that grating sort of sound? Sounds like a cicada. Listen to that sound. So that insect sound that you can hear that sounds very similar to a cicada is the call of this crested grasshopper. And that is exactly the point that I was busy getting at. So I pointed out the front leg, the middle leg pointing sort of backwards, and then look at that third leg. It's actually tucked underneath the body of this grasshopper. And if you try to look carefully, you'll see like right at the bottom where you would imagine the toes to be. They don't really have toes, but they've got little claws on the end of the leg. And you'll see that they've got like pretty rough edges, almost like serrated edges. And that is the way that this grasshopper makes that sound, that buzzing sound. By rubbing those rough serrated edges of the leg against its own body. And it rubs vigorously backwards and forwards, and it makes that buzzing sound. Just amazing. I was convinced that that sound was a cicada until the other day I heard the sound as I was walking past the bush, and I decided to investigate to see if I could spot the cicada, because they're also extremely well camouflaged, and spotted this grasshopper. And what's quite interesting is if you look at this grasshopper, there's no sign of wings. It's just the body and the legs. And so this is a female, and the females will be making that grating call in the hopes of attracting a male. Really fascinating. I mean, look at those antennae. I hope I don't cause too much disturbance, but I'm gonna try to walk around. I hope I don't disturb it, but I just want to try and get my hand up next to it for you. So I'll point at it, and you can compare it to my finger. And you see how she's completely frozen still. She is relying entirely on her camouflage. She doesn't have any other form of defense. I mean, she's got the sharp edges of her legs, which she might use to try and spike the danger to deter it. But her main form of defense is to just camouflage and just to look exactly like the branch that she's sitting on. And unfortunately for her, everything around her is green, but she does look like more or less like a little clump of dead leaves. In amongst those green leaves. What a nice little find. So I think we're going to leave her, and hopefully she isn't spotted by anything else, and carry on a little bit of a bumble ourselves. We're not really looking for anything. There has been some tracks of a female leopard in this area, so we might come across her. But yeah, just looking for, I'm going to say looking for a snake, but more or less a bit of a bumble this morning.
Hi, my name is Damon and I'm a guide here at and Beyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. Join me and our resident ecologist Craig Sholto Douglas at the fireside on the 21st of March for a discussion on 2 of our conservation projects. In early 2016, and Beyond was faced with the fact that without some serious intervention, our rhino population could be in some serious trouble. And so a decision was made to start a rhino dehorning program. Sadly, the fastest mammal on land, the cheetah, is also racing towards extinction. The and Beyond Phinda Conservation Team has been working on a project that aims to increase the genetic integrity of cheetah in protected areas around the country. Sign up to be a Wild Earth Explorer and join us for a lively debate where we'll answer as many of your questions as possible.
Wild Earth Explorer Jenny recently joined Tristan as he broadcast live from Djuma.
Awesome to kind of have a guest on board. I'm looking forward to this. This is Jenny.
Hi everyone.
And Jenny is the first of our Ticket to Dream holders.
If you want to go on safari with a Wild Earth guide, whilst honing your bush knowledge and of course featuring in one of our shows, then head over to our website.
Literally being with Tristan on the vehicle today has been incredible. It has truly been a dream come true.
Sign up to be a Wild Earth Explorer and you could be making your first ever on-screen appearance.
I would highly recommend being a part of the Explorer program and being able to be a part of an interactive live drive.
My name is Taylor McCurdy and I work for Eco Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on Wild Earth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the live safari page and submit your questions below the live feed.
Hello everybody. Well, Abel managed to catch up with the wild dogs, which we had for a moment. Now have obviously disappeared again. Oh, there's one. They chased something into a hole in a termite mound. We found them a moment ago. One of them inside the hole. She's sniffing, trying to find out. There's 2 here on my right, and there's 1 in front of me. Counted at least 6 just now. So they chased something, went into a hole. I don't know what it could have been. Typical dog behavior, eating some grass. But obviously the strategy of going into the hole in the ground has saved the life of whatever animal it was that went in. They've got such a characteristic smell. Anna-Marie, they are. Here's another one. Another 2 in front of us. They are a very good looking pack. I forget how many there are. Remember there was quite a few pups. They've all become sort of adults now. I haven't seen them in a while. I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we're not going to look at the one on our right who's eaten a whole mouthful of grass and is now vomiting. You might just hear it out the corner of the ambient. Ooh, I can't watch. It's all about fur balls, everybody. Purging. Help get that line of or material line in the top of the tummy out. And a very characteristic smell. Wild dog. Something I didn't know. I was chatting with Tristan about it when, because he obviously does a lot of work with EWT. Grant Beverly. Let's move up. We'll get this guy on the right again. Endangered Wildlife Trust. Relocation of the dogs. They spend a lot of time with relocating dogs and dogs that get out to escape national reserves. There's a lot of work with relocating them, and sometimes when they put together groups or pairs of dogs that don't know each other, they rub them on each other while they're obviously tranquilized, while they're knocked out. And when they wake up, they smell like each other, so they accept each other almost immediately. There's a better one crossing the front here. They're just coming out of everywhere now. That's number 9. So that's something that Tristan told me that I found very interesting, that they actually physically transfer the scent from one to another. And so if you're putting a couple of small groups together that don't know each other, when they wake up, they smell the same and they accept each other. Isn't that interesting? Dad, through sight, but through actually a sort of smell imprint. Well, just like that, the dogs have vanished. Okay, let me just go around the corner here. Have you got one? Can you see it? Okay.
Well, it must be very exciting following the wild dogs around this morning. We're really just taking it easy. We have not walked very far at all, maybe a few hundred meters if we're lucky. We're still just watching Ezulwini. He also has not moved very much. He's just done laps around the camp and now he's feasting upon the false marula. I honestly don't think I'm going to be able to inspect this false marula if he carries on at this rate. He's going to devour the entire thing. He is just absolutely loving it. Now, they obviously are a very good plant, good source of fodder for many of the different animals. The leaves are lovely and nutritious, and they also get berries on them, which I've only just recently eaten, so I wonder if any of these trees perhaps have some fruit on them. It'd be nice to be able to show you the fruit of the false marula, but we're probably not going to stay for much longer around him. I was hoping that he'd come out and we could see how wonderful he is, but he is wonderful, but he's just tucked. Oh, there we go. I can sort of see his tusks as he lifts his head up there. Every now and then he stretches up to the top and he snaps off a branch, and then you can sort of see him. So 50, I would say yes. From the time that I've spent on Pridelands, I think Ezulwini is definitely the biggest tusker that we see. There are obviously other tuskers that can come into the area because remember Pridelands is unfenced, so it's open to the Greater Kruger National Park. So elephants from all over can roam into the section. But from the year, or not quite a year, but almost a year that I've spent on Pridelands, and it's been pretty much almost every single day, I haven't seen anyone bigger than him. There's a couple of other elephants. Maybe you remember seeing Gap, who's a bull that is collared by elephants alive. He's got quite big tusks as well, but nowhere near the size of Ezulwini. And then there's another elephant bull that's got one tusk, and that is fairly large in size too. He's the other bull that's in must. So him and Ezulwini, I think, keep bumping heads every now and then because they seem to be going after the same breeding herds. That would be a very exciting scene to see unfold, to see Ezulwini come across that other bull that's in must. Very, very rare to capture a proper elephant fight, especially amongst two big bulls that are competing for females. That would be a sight. We always see them sparring, but right now I don't think anything like that is going to happen. I can also, behind me, starting to hear more and more branches breaking. So there might be other elephants coming in, but something that I want to see if you can all hear, I'm going to sit quietly. You're going to listen out for it. Almost sounds like somebody very gently beating the drums, and hopefully you can have a look at his ears, and then you can also hear the snapping of the branches. But let's see if you can hear his ears hitting the side of his body. Doing it particularly hard. It's very faint though. Like a doof, doof, doof. How cool is that? So those are things that you'll be listening out for, especially at this time of the year when you can't really see a few meters in front of you. But off you go across to Yapi. I think he's still on the search for the spotted cat.
So we've left the area with the leopard tracks, which is something that we can go back to at the later stage and go have a look, because I'm pretty sure that there's been a lot of leopard activity in that area, and it might have been around that riverbed. But we had reports of a mother cheetah with 3 young ones. And at this moment, they're currently moving, and they're moving into a very tricky part, which means that we kind of have to try and get there a little bit quicker to make sure that we catch them. Because with cheetah, especially on Ngala, once they start moving and they move into a large block, or they keep going and there's nobody that can keep up with them, then it's pretty much impossible to get to find them again. But as we're going along this area, we are passing through some large open spaces, which is the ideal areas for cheetahs. Now, I think that these cheetahs, and there's a mother with young ones, from what I hear, they are at the stage where they're getting to learn how to hunt. Hello. Okay. Oh. And so we are... So I'm pretty sure that the cheetah moved from this one clearing to the next. And slowly but surely came from the eastern part. I know that there's a cheetah with young ones been seen in the reserve just east of us not too long ago, so I suspect that it's probably moved over from that side towards this area. They're dead central in the reserve, and it's a beautiful area, very good for hunting this morning. Oh, cool weather, which means the cheetahs are quite active during the late morning. So we're gonna try and make haste as much as possible to head towards the area where those cheetahs are, and then we'll go see how Steve is doing with the wild dogs.
Welcome back, everybody. Sorry you lost us before. We did have a whole lot of wild dogs with us not long ago. Just go down the pathway here a little bit. One was still at that termite mound, was busy digging. There's one still here in the shade. They're not going very far. And we went back to that termite mound because one boy was actually still inside the hole, vigorously digging. And he's just come back to join the rest. So, Steenbok are known to go into burrows for shelter, and a little Steenbok possibly would have just snuck in and managed to get away, go as deep as possible. But the one dog was digging and digging and digging for that entire time, unsuccessfully. Some play. Emily, there's one similarity perhaps. I mean, the dogs are very, there are similarities. There's appearance similarities, similarities in tracks and in the claws, but they really are very different. Wild dog are very social, very coordinated. They're very sort of I'll help you sort of vibe, whereas hyena are extremely selfish, extremely hierarchical. There is obviously an alpha male and female in this pack, but they all do their part. There's no conniving, there's no stealing, there's no dominating. The dominating seems to happen, and then there we go. They just listen to whoever's the biggest. The cooperativeness of the breeding as well is very important. So there's so many dissimilar sort of traits that it's very hard. You can't put hyena in the category of dog. They're actually more closely related to a cat. But yeah, no, they behave very differently. The unique sort of ability of pack hunting animals. Obviously, we see hyenas from time to time hunting in packs, but that is how the dogs behave. Their survival depends on their alertness and on their group dynamics. They're quite a slight animal. They're not very heavy. They're not very powerful. They're very quick and very alert, but it's the strength of the pack that keeps them going. A wild dog on its own is a very vulnerable individual. Only the dominant female will breed, having up to 18 pups, and all of the members will provide food for those pups, whereas that doesn't happen in hyena society. Hyena society, only the dominant female will bring back food to the den, because otherwise anyone else will steal it, and then her youngsters only get suckled, whereas all the pups in a wild dog family, in a pack, they all get regurgitated food. They beg, doesn't matter who they beg to, they get given food. Even the alpha female, if she's staying with the pack, with the pups, will get enormous amounts of food brought to her. So there's far less sort of I am one in a wild dog family as there is in hyena. Hyena, it's pretty selfish, to be honest. Having a poo. Thankfully, the grass is too long. You can't get it. Going to lie down right next to the poo. So you can imagine, everybody, see how it's just disappeared like that. How many animals we drive past at the moment. Wing-hand, there's an alpha male and female, so I'm sure a lot of it's got to do with size and strength, leadership abilities. So, for example, we've got this, I can't remember the number here, but the biggest and strongest male would most likely be the alpha, and then the biggest and strongest female will be the alpha. Each of those individuals could get killed, and so it would then disrupt the pack for a period of time until they pick another alpha male or female. But the alpha male just generally initiates the hunts, and they all defer to him. It's a rank that's sort of deferred to. I suppose he probably does earn it through being a little bit stronger, but you don't see the aggression in wild dogs that you see in other carnivores. As we see in dogs, if you have dogs at home and you go to the park, there's always a dominance that plays between them. They might not be very aggressive, but the way that they play and they push each other, there's a huge amount of strength that's involved in the way dogs interact with each other, and so that would obviously lead to dominance. And then they just defer to that individual straight away. As soon as the pack gets too big, individuals who maybe feel like they want to be an alpha will probably move off, become a dispersal male or female, go find another group, or even just two of them go off, a male and female, and then start their own family. But you never see too much aggression between different wild dog clans. Clans, I mean families, packs. They generally are quite sort of tolerant of each other. They have very large home ranges, and so they can be anywhere really at any time. And they do accept other members, especially when they're in a small group. You get these breakaway groups that will join other breakaway groups. And with their ability to breed as prolifically as they can, up to 18, someone's even told me 24. That's suddenly a lot more individuals to feed or to join the family. So it probably does come with an element of age, but there's definitely a gender role as well. There's a male and a female. And if a female does come into estrus or does end up having puppies and she's not the alpha female will just take those puppies and just look after them herself. They need all the other hands on deck to be searching for food, to be bringing food back. So wild dogs, obviously very prolific hunters, very successful hunters, and when they have a den, they can be very, very territorial around that den, because there is the breeding mama and the new generation. In that stage, they don't range too far. We're not too far from the Manuleti, where this pack had their last den, in Pungwe. That was sort of middle-ish last year, if I recall. It's very hard to tell the difference between the individuals now, although there is a slight size difference between the youngsters. Have you got a visual of them? Yeah, there we go. Jerome, they're in and out. So, I mean, I got back the other day and Trish had them. What was that, our first morning? You were with Trish, eh? What was that, Tuesday? Tuesday morning. They came straight through from the south, from Chitwa. They were on Torchwood the night before, or the morning before. My first morning here, we physically tried to find them. We ran out of signal that side on Torchwood, and then they ended up on Djuma that next day. They were in Buffelshoek last night. They actually made a kill around Haradukul camp. And now suddenly, just this morning, just before we found them, they came onto Djuma. So they've been on Djuma for about an hour and 20 minutes. But they don't look at boundaries like everybody else does. They just follow their noses, follow the food, and off they go. So they can cover enormous areas. They're clearly not starving. Otherwise, they would have been moving a lot more. Clearly not incredibly hungry. They did eat yesterday, but as you know, dogs like to eat, don't we all? Okay, well, I'm going to turn my game drive radar back on and see what's happening there, see if we've still got some space, and we're going to send you back over to Yapi at Ngala.
And you can see this jackal is anything but calm at the moment. famous sound of the bush, mostly at night time. So interesting to be hearing it during the daytime. It's not unheard of, but it is quite unusual, and there's a good reason for that. Just have a look at that. There is 3 jackals about to meet up in that area. There we go, 2 at the back. It might be maybe a pair and then 1 youngster. You can see they're staring in a certain direction the whole time. And together with that call, the reason why they did that is because the direction that they are looking in has actually got a mother cheetah with 3 young ones laying in the shade of a magic quarry. And there we go. And they know very well that the attention's been on them. But look at those 3 little faces. Now, from what I can see, it looks like only the 3 young ones here. I don't see the mother at this point, but I'm sure she's somewhere nearby. And also, I have not seen this cheetah myself yet, so it's very difficult to judge exactly how old these little ones are. You can see there's a lot of looking around, heads turned in every direction, and the ears flicking, so I think in a space like this, there's a lot to draw their attention. An overwhelming flurry of other animals and critters in the nearby area. But they seem to have just stayed put where the mothers left them. I think this is quite a special thing. We don't get to see cheetah often in Garland. It is something that makes me very happy indeed. It is a beautiful cat, and completely different from our usual sightings of lion, which have been very good over the last few days. It's amazing how well these little cheetahs blend into the tall grass. You can hardly even see them. I actually struggled quite a bit when we came in to try and see where they were. And luckily for us, because there's more than one, I've been flattening the grass a little bit there underneath that quarry. And even though it's overcast and slightly cooler today. We're still seeking out the shade. And then of course for camouflage to be safe. There are lots of lion movements not too far from this area this morning. And then of course there's a lot of general game in this area as well, so if anything gives their position away, that could potentially be dangerous to them. Unless the mother's laying down somewhere in the tall grass near them, I would think that these ones, judging from the fact that they're on their own, is probably not really attempting any hunts yet or helping out in any way. And I think what we'll do is we might check the area a little bit, see if we do see any signs of her or find her, and then maybe we might have some luck yet. Maybe the jackals would be a good thing to follow.
Please join me this Saturday evening for a town hall meeting. It'll be live, and it's an opportunity for me to tell you about what Wild Earth is, where we're coming from, and where we're going to. And it's an opportunity for you to ask some questions, give us some feedback, and even maybe get more involved in Wild Earth going forward. 7:30 this Saturday evening, wildearth.tv. It's open to all. You've just got to be registered on our website, and we'd love to see you there.
Our lives are dictated by alarm clocks, traffic jams, constant multitasking, and countless distractions. The wilderness is where many of us feel the most human. On a bushwalk, we become part of the natural landscape. As you step off the vehicle, everything comes alive. As with any risky experience, walking amongst these animals inspires awe and appreciation. Now, it's your turn to go on a bushwalk. Join us from Pride Lands as we slow down our thoughts, put aside our distractions, and reconnect with a place that first taught us how to be human.
I love being a cam op for Wild Earth. The animals coming right up close to you, especially like lions. Sometimes you get nervous, but you have to go with the flow. My favorite animal to film is the elephant because of how big it is. But when it's really up close to you, it's one animal that you would say, I really respect you.
Goodness, look at its wobbly legs. Oh, I don't believe it. I can't believe we've actually seen it. Oh my goodness. Oh, careful, careful, careful. Oh no. Oh, it's okay, little one. Okay.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
Welcome back, everybody. They've caught a scrub hare, and they're all over the place with it right here. One has got it and doesn't want to share. They're making wonderful little noises. Sorry about the scrub hare's life, but it has been dispatched pretty quickly, I'm sure. Goodness me, dogs. They're all over, all over. around in circles. A hyena came charging in as well. I don't think it's going to get any of the scrub hare. Gears. Hey. Bumpy, bumpy, bumpy. They're making a very nice high-pitched, there we go, it's just to there. Maybe he's got himself a little kill. We got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so, you know, wild dogs are very, very sort of sharing when it comes to the right amount of food. But when it comes to a scrub hare, it's like playing a game with a dog and a ball. And the hyena's coming up on our right-hand side. I think it's Corky. I can't remember which hyena's got that very floppy left ear now. If I recall, it was Corky, but it's been a while since I've seen her. How's that view? Well, it is what it is. They did a full loop. There's another one coming through front. There's the youngsters. It's that begging sound that the youngsters make, that high-pitched squealing noise, going, give me some, give me some. And if you've ever played with a dog and a ball, you try to get the ball from it, and that game of catch, that's what we just saw now. They did a full couple of 360 degrees around us. So you wonder how many small meals the wild dogs will feed on. It's gone again. They come in front of us. It's like, no, it's mine. Give me, give me, give me. He'll try and ingest the entire thing as quickly as possible. How's that? Apologies if you don't like gruesome things, everybody. The scrub hare, I don't think, survived very long to feel anything. They came bounding after us, after scrub hare. Becca, wild dogs are exclusively hunters. On the very rare occasion will they steal from somebody. They might steal from a leopard if there's a fresh kill, but it's not something we often encounter. But they're very efficient hunters. Both wild dog and cheetah have got a very sort of weak constitution when it comes to meat. So their meat tolerance is one of very fresh meat. Leopard, hyena, and lion, on the other hand, are very good at scavenging and very good at, in the leopard's case, feeding on meat that's days old that they've kept in a larder. So their constitution for feeding on such meat is much better. So scrub hare is gone. It looks like one of the youngsters. Everyone, that was very fast and furious, and before you came to us, they went around us twice already, so they're really testing our reversing capabilities, and we're going to have to position now. I don't think you can see anything. Let's go back to where the whole chase started. Okay, well, from one fast animal to the fastest of them all.
So we have managed to find the mother, which was just on the other side of the three young ones. Which is normally the case with cheetah on the long grass. You need to just move and check a little bit. But there's an interesting situation developing here. Notice that the three jackals are approaching. And that's why that mother cheetah is staring intently in that direction. And the interesting thing is where that jackal is. You see that stump there? Now that stump gets used as a marking post for cheetah. Male cheetahs come through this area. They often move past that area and mark. And it's almost an indication that this is it's almost like a cheetah highway. Whenever there are cheetahs on Gala and they come through the central parts, they're very likely to move past this particular area. Now these jackals, even though they don't pose any real threat, I think they're curious. They're coming to have a look. And also, likewise, the young cheetah is also quite curious. Yeah. All you see is the little ears moving of the jackal. Now the cheetah's interests have been piqued properly. There's also what sounded like an elephant rumbling from behind. You can clearly see the difference in size between the little ones, the back of the mother in the foreground. Now from what I can see, she looks quite pale in color. If I had to take a guess, quite a mature female as well. You can see she's not too bothered by the jackals. And there's one of the little ones. Now. It should be interesting to see if they just want to get a better view of the jackal or if they might approach. Marianne, they are adorable, that is for sure. You can see they're struggling a little bit to see the jackal. But I wonder if they're going to chase them, because I have seen cheetah before chasing jackal, but mainly the adults. Like the younger ones, usually the jackal just stare at them and is not too bothered. You can see the mother's checking in a completely different area. Tessa, that's a good question. Do cheetah hunt as a group? In the case of males do form social bonds or coalitions. as they're called, kind of like male lions, and they do work together and hunt together at as adults. But with females, they usually, when they split off, they go on their own and they hunt on their own. So it does depend a little bit on the sex. It also depends on the size of the litter. I have seen, we've had a female that had 5 female cubs. And when they were at the age that they left the mother, we found them together a couple of times where they were feeding on something. We never actually saw them hunt. There we go. There was an attempt to chase the jackal. That's quite interesting. I guess the presence of the mom definitely provided that cheetah with the confidence it needed to try and chase off the nasty jackal. And I think what we should do is I'm just going to try to reposition a little bit, see if we get a different view or a different angle, because it looks like they're becoming quite playful at the moment. Now this is amazing. The fact that it's overcast, it's the perfect weather for cheetah to be active and move about. And it's, funnily enough, late morning when they get quite active. The cheetah in this particular area, they're much more active during daytime, especially late morning when lions are not, because there's a lot of competition from lion as well as leopard in this particular part. Now I can see the mother straight ahead from us, and she might be looking for any opportunities, maybe scanning along the peripheries of this clearing to see if there are any impalas around, groups of impala, or maybe even a herd of wildebeest with small ones. But as this mother's waiting for the young ones to catch up to her, because she seems like she wants to keep moving, I think we'll head over to Steve to see what those wild dogs are up to.
Well, good luck, Yapi. Our wild dogs are playing king of the castle right now. 3 of them on this termite mound. They were all on another termite mound just before. Now they're nicely elevated. They're all over the place here. I still haven't managed to get a good count. I've counted at least 8, maybe 9. And the hyena that's following them with the floppy ear, if I'm not mistaken, is June. She's just keeping out of the way. The tolerance level these dogs have for lone hyenas sometimes is remarkable. There's obviously no need for them to attack or to harass the hyena until there's food, because there's nothing to be stolen. A dog risks enormous amount of injury by attacking a hyena. Obviously, as a group like this, they could very easily overwhelm one hyena, but it just takes one nip. And that's possibly what happened to that individual's back foot. One bite from hyena could crush bone. could render an individual dog crippled, which could ultimately lead to its demise and even death. So they don't really risk it. Into a specific competition at its greatest, the tolerance, knowing the hyena is only following them to steal. Dogs are ferreting all around, looking for some more small game. After seeing them with that scrub hair, there's indication that they definitely are hungry, but it's kind of a story of, you've got some, I want some too. The youngsters that were begging, it's far past their age to be given any food by the adults. Jerome, hyenas are potentially more aggressive indeed, but they also know that the numbers that are outweighed here, same as when we find hyena with a leopard, the hyena has the opportunity to overwhelm the leopard, but if there's nothing to be gained in the form of food, then there's no real point in interacting, just hanging around waiting for the food. Here we go, they're playing. Here comes the third one to get in the mix. Oh! Let's just move up a meter. Oh, and they're going to go back on the two. Okay. So definitely one-on-one, even two, 3 dogs on one hyena. The hyena's definitely got a physical chance. But if there's no food, the hyena's got no point in trying to physically attack one of these dogs. If it shows aggression in that regard, the dogs will attack it, because that's sort of a declaration of war. Even the most peaceful nations will fight back if you declare war on them. So the wild dogs do have the numbers, and their teeth and their bite, although not as powerful as that of a hyena, has the potential to rip the hyena apart. They don't necessarily have the same bone-crushing ability, but they are very quick, very agile, and they are playing hide and seek. Oh, hello. It's a classic example of animal. This one's mouth is bloodied. That one that just ran down. I wonder if it's the one that had the scrub hair. Its mouth is full of red. So, classic example of habituated animals, everybody, that they're able to practice normal behavior, playing, hunting, just doing what they do in our presence without any sort of negative behavior, without looking skittish or running away. They are a very docile animal, a wild dog. There's never been any sort of negative encounters with wild dogs and people. They know that they're quick enough to just stay out of our periphery, and so they do. Okay, everybody, well, as you can tell, we're not going anywhere. And while we stay with our wild dogs, we're going to send you back over to Kyle.
Well, while Steve sticks with it for you folks there, we have a sneaky little individual peering over the foliage and looking directly at us. It's finding a high point just to scan and look for predators. You see the rest of the colony to the bottom left-hand side of the screen. The rest of them just busy sunbathing. A little bit of grooming before going off for today's journey in search of food. too bothered by our presence. I thought by us stopping here they would have gone straight underground, but that shows they're not too bothered, which is fantastic. Dealing with all the hard to reach places. Definitely a big advantage of having members in the colony that can help you do that. These individuals can relax and continue doing this behavior. I'm relying on that individual in the tree for safety, obviously having a great height advantage like that. That animal is getting a very broad spectrum of the area around him, and ensuring his colony members are safe. He's just tucked behind the bit of foliage there. So making his way up there is quite a task, and they do it quite skillfully. But I've spent many afternoon having a good chuckle of them coming down at the tree. Their claws aren't equipped for them to skillfully move down. Obviously those 2.5 centimeter long claws that are great tools for digging are quite a obstacle trying to move down a woody tree such as this here. And it can be quite comical. And look how well blended he is into that tree. So if he spots a predator, it'll be a very slim chance that a predator will see him. They're very entertaining animals to watch, Linda. The sociability, the activity, are really fantastic animals to watch. See, BK's got another great view there for us. So obviously still remaining cautious. Obviously we are a bit of a foreign object to these individuals. See those dark rings when that individual looks directly at us. Look how dark the circumference around the eyes are and how deeply set the eyes are into the skull. Very important to minimize on glare when you are foraging throughout the day. You don't want to be battling with glare out here when you need to be looking for predators.
On the 27th of April, Wild Earth will be turning 14 years old, and we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for all of you. And to celebrate, we will be finishing the beautiful book that we started last year that looks at the history so far. But we do need you to be part of it. Please submit your most memorable sighting, or what Wild Earth means to you, or even just your name and a comment to be included inside the book. Head over to the website to add your name and reserve your copy. We are offering a 20% discount on all books bought before the end of March. And a big thank you to all of you who have contributed to the book so far.
I'm absolutely delighted to have won the February prize draw for 3 nights for 6 people at the Djuma Private Game Reserve. I absolutely love everything Wild Earth has to offer. I find the guides extremely knowledgeable and will go above and beyond to ensure a great safari experience. I will be taking my husband and family from the UK to experience this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. One of the main reasons I joined the Wild Earth Explorer program was for the fireside chats and also to win an incredible prize, which I am so fortunate to win and incredibly happy. I would like to thank Wild Earth for this amazing prize and cannot wait to meet the team.
My name is Lauren and I'm currently working in Djuma Private Game Reserve here in South Africa. I love answering your questions during the live safaris. It's my favorite part. It feels like you're on the vehicle with me and I'm able to teach you exactly what you want to know. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, you must go to the live safari page and ask your question below the live feed.
So these cheetahs have been moving into quite a tricky spot at the moment. It looks like the female's hunting. If you have a look off to our left, there's a jackal that's following the moose very, very intently, trying to make sure that they watch carefully where they're going. I don't know if the jackals will follow the cheetah. You can see it's trying to get a better view there, very intently focused on the direction of the cheetah. I think the jackal knows that this is the time of the morning where the female might try and hunt. The little ones still look a little wild, but I think we're going to try see if we can get another view of the cheetahs, and in the meantime we'll head over to Pinda.
We have found something that looks like a snake, but it's not a snake. It's a legless snake. That appears to be trying to burrow into the ground, but it's not getting much purchase on this hard soil. It's really compacted after the rain and then the sun, almost like a smooth concrete.
Female leopard from sometime this morning head north, parallel east from Katlan. I'm not going to be following up.
Just coming to turn the radio down a little bit. Oh, I apologize. So notice the shape, very similar to a snake, and the appearance very similar to that of a snake. But it's quite a stocky head, and then like most of the body is very similar thickness, and then it just kind of tapers off at the end at the tail. Shame, and it's really struggling to get up that hill. And slithers and moves exactly like a snake. I do believe it is a young giant legless skink, just based on the appearance. although the giant legless skink is more of a brown color, I think that this one, being a juvenile, is a slightly different color. But I will confirm that. But that is what it appears to be to me. Amazing how it moves over the sand. Let's see, this bank looks a little bit softer, and maybe it's going to be able to burrow a little bit there. Can you see it, Craig? Thanks, Annette. Yeah, it is quite amazing. I feel quite lucky. I mean, I did say we were looking for a snake, and this one was fortunately on the road.
It's not a snake, though.
And it's not a snake, but it looks like a snake. Yeah, it lacks the climbing ability of a snake and of a skink or a lizard. I mean, if you think about most snakes or skinks that have legs, skinks would be able to run up that little bank very easily, and a snake would quite quickly get up that bank as well. So they're more suited to operating in soft sand. Where they use their pointy snout to burrow down. Oh, it's coming out the other side of the grass. See, as soon as it gets a different type of texture, or it is incredible how they move. I mean, you can imagine an animal that many years ago did have legs and has evolved to no longer need its legs, is able to move. But you see, when it finds itself in a situation that is not suitable, on a substrate that it's not developed to be able to function very well in, you can see just how much it struggles. I think this little skink or legless skink is now actually a little bit panicked. It's trying to get somewhere safe. I mean, it's completely out in the open. If something like even at this stage, a European roller, I think, would try to snap this little legless skink up. And as the day gets hotter, the birds will get more and more active. Imagine something like a snake eagle. It would just gulp this little legless skink down in one go. I'm very glad we managed to find a reptile this morning, and although not a snake, I think we're going to keep looking for snakes, but want to see what happens with this little legless skink. And in the meantime, I'm going to send you across to Yapi, who's still with the cheetah.
So from a skink panicking, and see these jackals were panicking, but there's a little bit of a relief now. You can see they've all three grouped back together, and the direction that they keep looking back into is the direction that the cheetah moved off to. Now, where those cheetahs went, it would be very difficult for us to follow them. It's quite a dense area, and especially now after the good rains we've had, it's near undrivable. So we decided to leave them be and let them do their thing. It looked like the female was interested to go look in the next clearings to see if they might find something to hunt. But we were left with these 3 jackals, who's now starting to relax a little bit and settle down. They don't have any other predators in their patch now. Jackals are amazing creatures. I know I've gotten the question before a few times of how long does a jackal pup stay with the adults, and I think it's got to do with the part of why we're seeing the 3 here. It's a very tricky question to answer because it depends. It depends on the area, on the family of jackals, on the needs of that family of jackals at the time, on the situation. It is normally just 2, especially in this area where you usually just see the pair, and then their young ones can live anything from about a year onwards. But sometimes they stay a little bit longer. This one actually looks quite mature already. They've been keeping an eye on the cheetah all morning, so a good time to go and find a spot to rest. But I think if they're settling down for the day, we'll probably move on from here and we'll go see what Kyle's meerkats are up to.
Well, very luckily that they are still here. Oh. There's an alarm call given by the cemetery. So they have about 30 different alarm calls depending on what the threat is. It's a jackal behind us. Look behind us there, BK. There's a jackal on the road. See it there? There's a jackal behind us, and this cemetery has just picked up on it and is uttering this almost like bark, if you would say. And that's notified everybody else that they should be back at that burrow system as quick as possible. There is a threat nearby. And obviously a form of defense. Go underground. You can see the individual still on top. They were locked onto that jackal. Jackal is a big threat for them, and so is aerial birds, raptors, snakes. But they need to be very careful with the jackal, because the jackal is very sneaky at times and would definitely seize a little meerkat if the opportunity presented itself. And the efficiency of the system that they have here, this is what enables these animals to live in open, sparse areas where you don't always have availability of cover and you always have to be on the watch. So while the rest of the group is foraging and doing what they need to do, this individual would be taking the responsibility to a high degree. Also, there is also a labor of division here as well, so this individual will be relieved of this duty in the next hour or so. And it's usually males that take over this role. Just going to see if I can reverse the car quickly, BK. Just want to see if I can reverse the car for us, folks. So we can get a better view on this individual in the tree. The jackal has moved off. Is everybody else looking at us? sighting them from here. There's one individual in that shade there, and there's one or two on the left-hand side of him. So very important for safety, but also rearing pups. These extensive systems are very important for a certain period when the pups are almost naked, blind, and totally helpless. That they can have the necessary time to develop in the correct manner, to which, when they're finally developed, then they can move off from this the safety of this burrow. Leslie, how far can meerkats hear each other? Leslie, I would say maybe about 50 to about 80 meters. Also depends on where they are moving through, depends on the vegetative structure, depends on the wind. There's a few variables that one would have to take into consideration. I don't think it's a certain meterage. Wind would definitely be a major factor in terms of individuals hearing each other when they're foraging. But they won't wander off too far from one another. They'll be within a couple of meters while foraging as a group and moving as one unit. Because if you wander off too far, you are putting yourself at high risk of not hearing that alarm call and then being caught. And while they are foraging, that individual that is watching out for the rest of the group is constantly uttering a small purring call and ensuring that the colony is safe, and then they can go on doing what they need to do. It's quite a remarkable system that they've got going here, and one that is very efficient, and they have fine-tuned it in so many manners to enable them to survive out here, because there's a lot of things that'll catch you out here. So I would say, on a nice clear day, let's say 80 meters, to be 100% sure. I wouldn't say more than that. But then also you would need a still day with hardly no wind. But a very, very important function that a lot of animals would use is vocalization. It is starting to warm up, so they shouldn't spend too much longer here. The day is ticking on, and they need to go out and forage. It's very, very important. Okay, so we're going to sit here for a bit, but let's send you over to Trish.
How fortunate indeed that we finally get to see Nhlangula. Now this is very special for me because this is the first time that I am seeing this particular leopard. Well, at least his face. I've seen his behind and his tail. But this is the first time I'm seeing his face. This is really, really, really exciting. As you can imagine, it's a very packed sighting. We've been waiting for a while, sitting at Buffelshoek Dam and things like that, waiting to see him. And finally we have, and it's going to be short and sweet. At least it will happen. That's my favorite bit of it. So there's not much that I know about him except the fact that he's beautiful and that he's a tutu male. We usually see him, or he's usually seen in Buffelshoek, a little bit north. But at the moment, he's here on Buffelshoek Cutline, close to Buffelshoek Dam. This is the second time that we, as Wild Earth, have seen him in this area. It's a little bit further south than the usual recorded sightings of him. But I am very, very glad to see this male. We haven't been seeing male leopards recently, and I've been missing Tingana so much. But instead, I shall have Nhlangula for this morning. He's up in a big jackalberry, just north of Buffelshoek Dam, actually. He was near Cheetah Cutler in Buffelshoek Dam, which is where he was seen last. I think it was with Lauren. It's interesting to note that he is spending more time further south. I suspect it's still all part of his territory, but seeing him in the southern portions of his territory is a bit less usual. So at least we've got some spots for the morning. I'm quite happy about that. And doesn't he just look great amongst the leaves of this jackalberry, like he's in a deep, deep jungle. I'd love for him to open his eyes. Everyone's really happy to see him and thinks that he looks amazing. I'm so glad that I could give you that. He does look amazing. And you were just saying earlier that the animals look in such great condition. He's no exception. No exception at all. But I do want to see him open his eyes. That's the way I will know that he is healthy, when I see those eyes. It's still quite overcast and cool, so there'll be quite a bit of predator movement, even in the late morning. So he may still be here this afternoon, he may not. But there's no kill in this tree, so there's nothing to keep him in this jackalberry. Oh, he is. Yeah, seeing a new leopard is such an exciting thing. You want to see all these things. You want to see it walk. You want to see it. You want to see it. Its eyes. You want to see it yawn. You want to see its tail. So many things to note about it. You want to see it sleep. It's very, very exciting. But at the moment, I have to kind of keep my excitement under wraps because there are other vehicles in the sighting, so I can't just scream and shout. Monique, you said he looks quite comfortable. Certainly, very comfortable. Jackalberry is a comfortable tree for a leopard. As comfortable as a marula, I would say. Nice, big, thick branches. You can totally rest your leopard body over. Drape yourself. Well, that was a very, very rude awakening. And now I'm going to have to move just a little bit. Okay, let's try and just roll back a little bit. Okay. Okay. That's as best we can do right now. I can sort of see his eyes. Still closed though. Almost thought he was going to open them up, but no. So there's so many things to note about him. Like his nose. He seems to have quite a large nose. I also want to see his proportions. You know, how big is he? What's his dewlap like? So many things to get to know about him. Yeah, if we were driving past here and we didn't know that there was a leopard in a tree, you would never ever see him. Never see him. Can you imagine the type of magnificence we often drive past. It's just amazing. Okay, well, I'm going to send you over to Kyle and the meerkats. We'll try to reposition and hopefully we'll be successful. If not, that's okay too.
Yeah, us as humans tend to drive past a lot that we are not aware of, and that's why being on a bushwalk is a very humbling experience. It allows you to get up close and personal with things that you didn't even know that was there before. It's a real amazing experience. So just tapping into that previous question that was asked, how far can meerkats communicate with each other? Yeah, so the variables in there would be very tricky. So if you look at wind direction, wind speed, even humidity would be a factor on how far that animal would be able to hear a colony member. But if you look at the general behavioral traits of these animals, when they're foraging, they won't be very far from each other at all. I mean, maybe 30 to 40 meters maybe sometimes, splaying out from a colony, especially the older ones that have got more experience. But otherwise, they stay in a fairly tight unit while foraging and moving through these environments. They need to, because as a defense mechanism, they've got strength in numbers. If you look at meerkats, you'll never find a meerkat by itself. It stands a very slim chance of survival being alone. And being in a group is your strongest foothold out here. So while foraging, if you venture off, a good couple of meters away from the colony, you are putting yourself in major danger. Major danger. So it's very important that you stay very close to your colony members. That first and foremost, you have backup. Everybody needs backup every now and then. And then as well as you can hear what is going on around you. Because when they're foraging, remember that they're digging into the earth, and then they're actually, their heads are sometimes the entire body is gone. That's how deep they can dig. So you need to be fairly close to your members to just know what's going on around you, and you can forage with ease. So I would say they could maybe hear each other on a perfect day, 50 to 80, like I mentioned there, maybe meters. I could be incorrect, but I'm just taking an educated guess here. But then obviously all those variables coming into play, which you would never have a perfect day. There's always movement out here. But these individuals just watching us now that Jackal has moved off a bit further, and you can see from these two in frame that they are looking in different directions. If there was a threat, they would both be focused on that threat. And now they're just looking and scanning in different directions, making sure that there's nothing sneaking up from any corner of the burrow system. Got a lovely burrow system at that. Beautiful raised section, so you can see that there's been a lot of soil that has been excavated from the creation of these tunnels and underground chambers. This makes for beautiful viewing. Nicanova, do different meerkat groups fight each other? Yes. There can be fights that are quite vicious, and sometimes even fatalities. The area that you live in out here provides everything that you need. So for example, if you had to be at home, your home is possibly what provides you with everything. And if somebody just comes in there and just starts eating all your food, your family is going to be detrimentally affected. So you'd want to ward that person off. You'd want to chase them out. And it's the same principle out here. Their territory is everything. It's their shelter that they find out here. The food is provided for them. So if you have another group wandering into your territory, you're going to want to chase them off as quickly as possible. And they would visually show that. So if they see a opposing group, their tails would be a very, very clear visual indication of aggression. So their tails will be held in a certain position, almost cocked over them, like a scorpion. And then they would do this almost bounding, where they almost jump and they rock backward and forth towards their opponent. And then the males come into very important play here. Obviously, they're a little bit larger, a little bit more aggression. They would then obviously confront that group, and the whole group would advance as one unit to try and chase this group off. It's quite a remarkable sight to see two groups having a little bit of conflict. But obviously, visually, first you want to try and avoid each other by using visual displays, and then if things don't go that way, then obviously they'll get into the boxing ring.
Hi, my name is Damon and I'm a guide here at Ambion Phinda Private Game Reserve. Join me and our resident ecologist Craig Sholto Douglas at the fireside on the 21st of March for a discussion on 2 of our conservation projects. In early 2016, Ambion was faced with the fact that without some serious intervention, our rhino population could be in some serious trouble. And so a decision was made to start a rhino dehorning program. Sadly, the fastest mammal on land, the cheetah, is also racing towards extinction. The Ambion Phinda Conservation Team has been working on a project that aims to increase the genetic integrity of cheetah in protected areas around the country. Sign up to be a Wild Earth Explorer and join us for a lively debate where we'll answer as many of your questions as possible.
It's the month of March and Wild Earth is offering you the chance to win a brand new prize. Sign up to be a Wild Earth Explorer and you could win a 5-day eco-training ranger experience for 2. Eco-training is the pioneer and leader in safari guide and wildlife training in Africa. The lucky winners can look forward to approaching dangerous game on foot, tracking and 4x4 driving, learning about animal behavior, and even spending one night sleeping out under a blanket of stars. In addition, you will also get the exclusive opportunity to join the Wild Earth team on the broadcasting vehicle. Sign up to be an explorer now, and it could be you that wins this life-changing experience. Terms and conditions apply.
My name is Steve, and one of my favorite things at Wild Earth is getting questions from you. The type of questions that I really like are those ones that really help us to unpack and understand and really integrate the ecological knowledge and fully appreciate the importance that animals such as these Cape buffalo bring to the ecosystem. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, you're going to have to register on the website. But once registered, just head on over to the live safari page and enter your question under the live feed.
So we've left the cheetahs and the jackals and we've come to the central part of the reserve where we were hoping that we might find a male lion that was sleeping under a bush. But by the looks of it, he's moved. And at the moment we're just stopping to have a little listen out. See if we might hear any animals alarming, any birds alarming. This weather's actually been quite crazy today because it's been one of those days where you're not sure exactly what's going to happen because it's so cool. And even cats might move later in the morning. But I think what we'll do is we'll continue along this road, see if we might get lucky. Maybe we see some signs of this lion further down the road. I haven't seen anything, so I don't think he's gone down the road. His tracks would have been clear on the road if he did take the road, so I think we'll try our luck along here, but in the meantime, let's head over to Carl with these meerkats.
So even the size of a colony is a determining factor when two rival clans clash. So these animals do wander, and sometimes they do wandering into neighboring clans, and there can sometimes be fights over territories. Obviously, if you're in a territory that's very favorable, you're going to have a lot of pressure. And the unity of members within this group and the social bonding is very, very important, and as well as the size. So obviously larger groups will be victorious, and you'd find that they would advance as one unit. The pups would be taken off, obviously as a form of safety for them, and then the group would advance towards this intruding clan in what they actually refer to as the war dance. So it's when they're rocking or bouting across, advancing towards this group. And like I mentioned, sometimes there can be serious injuries and even fatalities from these interactions. But really something amazing to see, because they want to avoid that, but if it really comes to the bare knuckles of everything that's going to happen. But right now they're all complacent. They've got no other clans to worry about. And it's just nice to view them at the burrow system just like this. Some beautiful bird calls in the distance. The beautiful call that you can hear in front of us is the call of the bok makiri we looked at a few days ago. Very beautiful call. And these meerkats will also be using those birds, because if those birds see a potential threat, they will start mobbing. And then the attention of the meerkats, they know where this potential threat is from, wherever this mobbing behavior is coming from. So right now they're actually utilizing the birds via their calls to give them indication that everything is fine, because the birds are just going through a normal songful display. So they're really tapped into the environment, and they're very clever on how they keep themselves safe out here. Well, from us here at Tswalu, it's been absolutely magical having you here with us on board. From myself and BK and the rest of our colleagues on the other side of the country, it's been magical having you here with us. Please make sure that you're with us this afternoon. Oh, where are you going? Please make sure you join us this afternoon, where we'll be jumping back on board at 3:30 p.m. To continue exploring the wonders out here. And thank you very much for all the questions and comments. See you later.